Welcome to today's 5-minute Bible study in the book of Exodus. We're in Exodus chapter 19. The Israelites arrive at Sinai. Let's begin to read the first several verses of chapter 19. Now, in the 3rd month after Israel left Egypt, they came to the desert of Sinai. After they set out from Rephidim, they entered the desert of Sinai, and they camped there in the desert in front of the mountain. Then Moses went up to God. The Lord called to him on the mountain and said, "This is what you are to say to the house of Jacob, what you are to tell the people of Israel. You yourselves have seen what I did to Egypt, how I carried you on eagle's wings, and I brought you to myself. Now, if you obey me fully, if you keep my covenant, then out of all the nations you will be my treasured possession. Although the whole earth is mine, you will be for me a kingdom of priests, a holy nation. These are the words you are to speak to the Israelites." Now, it's been 3 months since the Exodus, 3 months since they left Egypt. It's taken that long to travel across the desert, but now they come to Mount Sinai, to the mountain of God, that place where Moses had first encountered God in the burning bush and received his commission to go and deliver the Israelites. Now, you remember in Exodus chapter 3, when Moses had first met with God, God had said to him, "I will be with you, and this will be the sign to you that I have sent you. When you brought the people out of Egypt, you, the people, will worship God on this mountain." And now the promise is fulfilled. God has brought them out of Egypt. Now they're at the mountain to worship the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, the God who has delivered them. Now, the first thing they hear a word from the Lord through Moses says, "You have seen what I have done and how I carried you out of Egypt on eagle's wings, how I brought you here to myself." They would, of course, remember all the plagues and how God had afflicted the Egyptians and judged the gods, so-called gods of Egypt, showing that he alone was Lord, how he brought them out. They would remember the Red Sea, how God had opened the sea. They passed through on dry ground. When the Egyptian army tried to pursue, they perished. They would remember. They would remember how they journeyed across the desert, how they came to the place of bitter water, and God had made the water sweet. They'd remember how God had provided manna, food, heavenly food for them in the wilderness. They'd remember at Massah and Meribah how there was no water, and from the rock God called forth the living stream. Oh, they'd remember all these things. God had brought them on eagle's wings. He had provided all they needed. And now he brings them to the mountain of God so that they can become a covenant people, that they can enter into relationship with him. Notice he says to them, "You will be my treasured possession. Out of all the nations on earth, you will be my treasured possession. You are chosen by me to be my people." Now, it's not that the other nations don't belong to God. God goes on to say, "All the earth is mine, but you are my chosen people." What does that mean? That means that it is through the Israelites that God will begin the salvation of all the earth. Notice he said, "You're going to be a kingdom of priests." Now, a priest represents God to the people, does he not? So as a nation, Israel would show the whole world what God was really like. So many of the nations of the world, like Egypt, were involved in the worship of false gods, the so-called gods. Now God has demonstrated his power over them, that he alone is the Lord. And you, the Israelites, will be my chosen people, my priest, to show to the whole world who I am and to call all the nations back to me. That's what it means to be the people of God. Eventually, through the Israelites, the Messiah will come. He will be the one through whom every family on earth will be blessed. He will be the one to bring salvation to all the world. And that's all beginning now with Israel. God is preparing himself a people through whom one day the Messiah will come to save us all. That's what's happening at Mount Sinai. You're going to be my treasured people. You're going to be my covenant people if you will obey me and keep my covenant. And how did the people respond? Moses went back, he summoned the elders, he told them the words of the Lord, and the people responded together, "We will do everything that the Lord has said." So Moses brought their answer back to the Lord. So God has brought the people to the mountain and said, "You're going to be my covenant people. Will you obey me?" And they say, "We will. We will obey all that God has commanded us." What a wonderful moment. Now they are ready to enter into covenant and to receive what we know of as the Ten Commandments. We'll begin to look at that, though, in our next session. God has fulfilled his promise. He has delivered the people from Egypt. He has brought them to the mountain that they might now become his covenant people. What a wonder it is. Hope you have a great day today, and I'll see you next time as we continue looking at what happens at Mount Sinai as Israel enters into that covenant relationship with God. I'll see you in our next study in the book of the Exodus.